Hello, everybody. My name is Kate Hudson Hall, and thank you for listening to Bulimia Sucks. Now, this is a platform for people to share relatable and uplifting and inspiring conversations based on bulimia and anorexia and other eating disorders. And episodes include their personal stories of where they are now and their difficult journeys and their steps taken into recovery. And then we also talk to professionals who work with people with eating disorders. Now, my audiobook, my Bulimia Sucks audiobook, is now live on Audible and Amazon and iTunes. And if you would be interested and would like a free copy of this, then please email me at katehudsonhall@gmail.com. and I can send you the code so you can download it for free. And also the launching of the Bulimia Sucks digital pack is now available. And this is very exciting because it's got some fantastic tools in there to help you to begin to break your difficult negative behaviors and patterns. And so it includes 8 hours of video content, the PDF of Bulimia Sucks, and also a hypnosis recording, an MP3 download, and an ebook download for family and friends to guide them to understanding how maybe they can help you, and a relaxation recording for those times when you're feeling very anxious or stressed or all of those other multiple difficult feelings you may be having, to be able to calm and relax you, and access to a private Facebook group for ongoing support, and a regular Facebook live Q&A sessions with myself. So if you would like to know more, if you go to bulimiasucks.com, all the information is on there. Now, today, our wonderful guest is Lisa Winneke. Now, welcome, Lisa. I'm so excited to have you on. Now, Lisa is the creator of the Wholehearted Woman. She's a mentor, a speaker, podcaster, author, and visionary who has been deeply immersed in the personal development space for well over a decade. Initially motivated to heal herself after living with depression and bulimia for decades, she soon discovered her purpose through forging her own path in returning to wholeness and to her heart. I love that. Lisa is committed to guiding people to connect to their true nature, to meet their humanity with love, and to remember the wisdom and power that resides in them to create a life from their hearts with confidence, courage, and deep compassion. Beautiful, beautiful. So, Lisa, welcome. It's fabulous to have you on the show.
I love your energy and thank you. And it's so lovely often to listen back just when somebody introduces you and to really feel the truth of what you stand for now. And it's such a beautiful reminder when I hear it, as you know, the journey that's brought me all these years to sitting here in front of you. And who would have guessed all those years ago that I would be feeling so empowered and supporting people to return and connect to their true nature, which was what was missing for so many years for me, and what is missing for people that are experiencing bulimia, anorexia, depression, anxiety, any one of those things. So
absolutely. Oh gosh, absolutely. So let's start at the beginning. So tell us about when your bulimia started and how that developed, that difficult pathway and your depression. I'm sure it was all intertwined.
Do you want me to share a funny story first?
Oh, go on.
Only because you asked me, and I'm like, okay, I think it would be good to
Whoops, I
start.
forgot.
And as I was sharing with you, when I was going through, I'm like, do I have a funny story to share? That's really sad, Lisa, that you don't have a funny story. So my funny story that I remembered was when I was married, and I think it was an anniversary that we were going out to this really, really beautiful restaurant. And it had been raining outside, and I was wearing heels, and I don't wear heels. I wear high tops, I wear runners. That's
Yeah.
me. But in this moment, I decided to dress up and I was wearing heels. So I'd come down these steps, was quite a deep slope, and come into this restaurant. And I was walking through, trying to be really cool. And I slipped and I slipped and I went back. And when I went back, I somehow managed to grab the tablecloth of this table that was set for 8, and all the plates and all the glasses and everything came down smashing. And I was on my back with wine everywhere. And I got up and I was quite composed. And if that had been an old me, I would have shriveled up and died. Honestly, Kate, it would have been horrendous. So it's funny only because I have such a deep love of self that I was able to be with the shock of it, to be with the embarrassment of it, and then come out the other side and see it as, wow, like that in the past would have, as I said, that would have completely unraveled me.
That's so funny. What a fabulous entrance you made. Here I am.
Yes. Yeah. I just wanted to start with that.
Oh, I love that. That's excellent. Well, probably wasn't at the time, but that's a funny story.
No.
Oh, so anyway, so going back to what I was saying before, so we'll start. Let's if you could talk about your bulimia, when you have your bulimia and the depression.
So I was very unhappy as a teenager, and I was, I look back now and see how I was rebelling. I rebelled against authority. I rebelled against a father who was very dictatorial and very strict. And what happened as a result of that was I was asked to leave a couple of very private, some of the well-known private girls' schools in Melbourne, Australia. And that really sent me down a spiral, and I started to put on weight. And as I started to put on weight, because I was emotionally eating to comfort myself, I gained weight. So I'd gone from being quite so slim to putting on weight. And then once I finished school, so about 6 months out of school, I was dating a guy, and his best friend's girlfriend was a dancer, and she was slim and she was gorgeous. And I was so jealous. And this was not a new pattern. Looking back, I had always compared myself. And so it was in my face. And I found I didn't even know what bulimia was before I actually binged and purged for the first time. And I found a way of relieving myself of the feelings I had about myself, of the fact that I had this woman in front of me, this girl in front of me that was so beautiful, that had everything that I wanted to be: successful, gorgeous, pretty, confident. And I was the reverse of that, even though I was showing up as confident and together and happy. And so that was 18. I was 18 years old, and I had bulimia pretty much on and off, but mostly on, for 20 years.
So for 20 years. Wow.
And during that time, not many people knew about it. In fact, no one knew for the cause of it. I hid it extremely well. And even to the point that my mother at one point took me to the hospital, because I arrived back from overseas and I hadn't been binging and purging. So I'd been starving myself. So I looked really unwell. And so that was the only time that she took me to hospital, and they found that there was an ulcer in my tummy. And that was the only time that I was actually taken for support.
Right.
Through that whole period.
So your mother knew that you had bulimia, or at that time?
She knew of it, but I had such an incredible way of masking it that she didn't really know.
Right. And did she ever approach you about it?
No.
And would that have made
Not
a
an,
difference if she had have done, do you think?
I don't know, it's all in bed, with the benefit of hindsight. Could it have potentially, I think when somebody is going through their own stuff, and a lot of mothers are, that's because we're human. And unless you are full yourself and really present for your kids, often you miss, I believe, often you can miss these signs.
Mm.
And so there is no fault or blame of my mother. My mum did an amazing job and I love her dearly. I really do love her dearly. She did the best she could. Could it have helped? Of course, it potentially could have helped. But I needed, as we talked about before we jumped on, I needed to be ready.
See, my mother,
And
she knew that I had bulimia because I wasn't so good at hiding it, I presume. And I had this huge bloated face and I was so slim. And then spending time with me, it was kind of obvious from my patterns. And she did over time approach me about it. But at that time, I wasn't really ready. I was in denial. Not me? No, even though, it was obvious. So
mine was, I didn't obviously have a mother that approached me, but I was not willing to address it because I had a deep belief that no one was ever going to see the truth of what I was doing because it was so revolting. In fact, I was revolting.
yeah.
And it had been, as much as it was horrendous what I was going through, the alternative of what I was experiencing before was worse. So it was almost as though the way I was at school, being asked to be left, not having any attention, feeling unattractive, all of a sudden I had people that were attracted to me. I was being noticed. I had attention, everything that I was wanting. So do you see, it was a lesser of evils, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was such an automatic, I was so in the process of doing it that, I remember, I share this, I remember hearing the story about Jane Fonda having it forever. And I thought, that's going to be me. I'm going to have bulimia forever. And I had accepted it as my lot in life.
So you had accepted it.
Which is why I didn't seek help, which is why I didn't want to talk to anyone about it. And it was, now I see how lonely it was, and that everything that I wanted was not available, would never be available to me, which was connection with others, to be seen by others, to be loved by others. That none of that I could never have experienced that in that world.
No.
But I just couldn't, I couldn't see beyond it.
Yeah. I didn't really understand what was going on with me when I was in the depths of bulimia. I think because it was such a long time ago, and I do refer back to the 1800s. I am that old. There wasn't really much information anyway, particularly for my mother. She was nowhere to turn to get the help. There was the odd book, but it was very academic. It was difficult for me to read, read anything, let alone a book like that. And I just thought I was going mad. That's how I felt at the time. So Lisa, so what brought you to the point where you actually thought, okay, I need to do something here. I need to do something different?
It wasn't even for me that brought me to the point. So I have twin boys that are 17 and a 13-year-old. My twin boys were born through IVF, and I had many issues falling pregnant, and I blamed myself because of the eating disorder, because my husband didn't know, or my ex-husband now did not know, that I had bulimia. And so when my twin boys were about 3.5, one of them was diagnosed on the spectrum, and I went down a dark slope, and the bulimia came back again. And so I was referred to a kinesiologist.
Oh, fabulous.
And I was seeking help, not for me, for him, because I thought he was broken. I thought there was something wrong. I wanted to try and fix him.
Mm.
Not that I had those words, now that language, but essentially that was where I was coming from. He's not whole and complete, and he's not going to be accepted by society, which was my greatest fear, of being rejected, of being on his own, of not belonging to something. So I went to see this kinesiologist, who became a very, very dear friend of mine. She's since passed of breast cancer. And in that 2.5-hour session, she spent a very long time with me. My whole world was opened up when she showed me that the only thing that he needed, I went there thinking that he needed to be helped so he could find some friends, but that was my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she was able to show me that the only thing, and explain to me the only thing that he needed was me, at his age, my love, and for that to occur in the way that he would receive it was for me to receive that from me, to love me.
Wow.
And that changed the course of the path that I was traveling. And I went home and I told my husband at the time, and he was supportive and said, I love you no matter what. And that from that moment on, I was fueled on this path. And I literally, it was like something that was pulling inside of me, moving me, pushing me forward, like hand on my back, leading me in the direction of books, leading me in the direction of different modalities to support me, to different coaches and mentors. I mean, I have a lot to be grateful for my husband, apart from the fact he's a beautiful, my ex-husband, he's a beautiful man, but he fully supported my journey in healing and returning home to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
And did you continue to have kinesiology appointments?
I did. I did, yeah. And then I went and studied kinesiology for 2 years, and I became a kinesiologist.
Oh, explain to our listeners what kinesiology is. I love it.
Well, there's a lot of different ways. Like there's a different ways of kinesiology. As in, there's different modalities of kinesiology. But the kinesiology I learned was we muscle test to identify imbalances in the body, and the imbalances can be mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, chemical, like all the aspects of self. Holistic, it's the whole self. And then by identifying the imbalances of the body, we then make corrections to any one of these many, many areas to essentially bring the body back into balance, whether it's alignment, a mental, so that we are in flow. We're in connection, we're in flow with our true nature. And so that was when I started down this path of understanding energy, and that that we are more than these physical bodies.
And what I love about, I don't know that much about kinesiology. I have had some treatments for it years ago, but what I really felt was fascinating was because it's all connected to the unconscious side. So with the muscle testing and all of the areas that we're not aware of. Marvelous.
Which is like 90-something% of, which is creating the reality, creating our experiences, is the subconscious, the unconscious. So if we can get to that and bring it to light and see it, then we can see it for its, craziness. And we can choose then, from an adult place, we can choose whether we want to actually be aligned or whether we want to continue to choose that for ourselves, choose that belief, choose those thoughts, choose those feelings, or start to heal what we have believed to be true about ourselves.
Yes.
What we've had running in our heads, what we've had running and believing to be true.
Yes. And working with those beliefs.
Yeah. Because the beliefs have served a purpose. I've done a lot of work around creation. And so, and when we come into the world, it's like we're in this is our bodysuit, but it's also like a car, and we need to orientate. We need to find a way of orientating ourselves through life. So what do? We look outside of us to see how to navigate life.
Yes.
And that's how we create belief. That's how we take on beliefs so that we can navigate life. So it's actually served a purpose. But then when we get to a point, we can see, are those beliefs serving a life in relationships that we want, or actually not. So I'm actually going to choose something different for myself now.
Yes. Yeah. And there's multiples of limiting negative beliefs out there that people have, and they can have many different beliefs about themselves that maybe aren't positive.
And I spent a long time trying to change the beliefs about myself, and where I got to in the past few years is understanding I actually don't need to change them. I need to see that they are there,
Right.
because that's what supported me. But then I choose to return home to my heart and know that that's actually not my truth.
Right. Yeah.
So rather than try and fix that I'm not good enough or fix that I need to be perfect, there's nothing to do in that space. Actually, I'm going to actually perpetuate the problems and the beliefs if I put my attention and energy into that, as opposed to returning home to my heart and going back to what I want to create, what I know is possible for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Because those beliefs are guided by our thinking and the thoughts.
Yeah.
And it's our choice whether we listen to those thoughts, or we could choose a different direction. But it's being aware of those thoughts in the beginning that we can then begin to change those.
And that takes time, as you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a very strong limiting negative belief as I was growing up that I was stupid. And it started when I was 5, and my older brother would tell me I was stupid, and it went on, and that went on for a long time. And then at school, I kind of like molded myself into believing this, and then I was taken out of extra spelling or whatever, and then it kind of carried on like that. So all the way through, I was just, I never did very well in exams because I had this belief, this negative belief that I was stupid. So it wasn't until I learned about beliefs and started to change the way I was thinking and started to truly believe in myself that I no longer needed to think like this, that then I could start to move in a different direction.
Which takes such a commitment, as you would have experienced, to continuously choose not to buy into the way you've believed, or the beliefs that you've believed, the beliefs you've had about yourself.
Yeah.
I had a belief that I was a failure. I was told I was a failure time and time again. And what I find fascinating now, because I'm on the other side, is that, but that's not to say that these beliefs are not insidious. Like, they still show up.
Yep.
They run deep. But what I understand now is that when I believe that to be true, what I continue to do is create the reality to prove to myself that I was a failure.
Right.
It fascinates me that when we believe something about ourselves, we will continue to create the very things to reinforce the beliefs we have about ourselves. It's like, it is actually extraordinary.
But then over time, your brain will develop a new neural pathway, and it will reduce down the amount of times that you're thinking that way and start to use the new pathway.
As well as, each time we think differently, then that has then we have a different feeling. And so a lot of the work that I've done is the embodiment, like changing the way my body's responded to life so I can feel. So I knew how it felt to be a failure. I didn't just think failure. I felt like a failure. Yeah. So I had to entrain my body to feel differently, to respond to life differently, as well as my thoughts.
So how did you do that?
So
this is kind of going into the work that you're doing now, and you're helping people with this.
It is part of it, but it's all the things that I use to support me to return to wholeness, to return to knowing that I'm whole. And so the kinesiology was one way. Meditation has been with me for 8 or 9 years now, and I know, I know the power of meditating and what happens with us physiologically, not just neurally, but in our physiology, what changes when we meditate.
Yes.
And so, and you do that over a long period of time. People say, what are the effects? Well, when you're looking for the results, you're not going to get the results. But if you commit to something like this, I just know that I feel differently about myself. So I became an EFT practitioner as well. EFT was something that was really a key part of starting to unravel some of the beliefs and my physiology around it and how I felt about myself. And then breathwork's been a big part.
Sorry, Lisa. So EFT, so emotional freedom technique. So it's the tapping technique.
Yes.
So it's tapping on a routine of points to be able to reduce down any negative feeling that you may have, or thought, or physical issue.
And again, because you're tapping on these meridian points, you're also accessing the unconscious. So you're accessing memories that previously you may not have been able to access, because what it's doing is it's switching on the relaxation response. And when you're in a stress response, you've got no access to to clarity. You've got no access to these memories. But when you can calm the body down and you can then see a situation, a trauma in your body, when your body's in a calm state, then you can start to liberate yourself and liberate your energy from the trauma.
Yes.
So EFT was amazing. Breathwork's been a big part of changing the way my body responds to life. And then the constant practice for me in returning home to my heart. So this happens so many times a day, I couldn't even tell you, but I bring my hand onto my heart, or my attention onto my heart, and I check in and I ask, okay, what are you thinking? How are you feeling? Is this loving to you? Is this thought loving? Is this feeling loving? Is this choice loving? And so I'm constantly, that practice in itself has been life-changing for me and for my clients, because it's not just a tick, I'll do this and then I'm going to get that result. It is, I'm choosing to live from my heart, and my heart, if I'm actually tuned in and I'm trusting it, which takes time to retrust, to come back and build that relationship with your heart where you can trust it, then I know that I'm always being guided in the right way. So that's actually that's allowed my body to really come into a calm state, unlike it felt previously. So I've been doing that maybe for the past 2.5 years, and that has been daily, and that's been instrumental in how I feel about life and how I'm able to navigate the chaos of things that are happening outside of me now. Whereas before I would try to avoid or try to control my environment because I found it hard to be with certain feelings and emotions. I'm highly empathic, and the more I opened my heart, the more I felt everything. And I was like, oh goodness, this is too much. And now I am much more centered in who I am. And I've been able to create boundaries around where I put myself, what I allow into my space. But that has come from a relationship with my heart. And so that's been deeply transformational for me.
Wow. Now, I know that you said that, it's not, there's multiple different areas that you have been working with, but for our listeners, if they wanted to sort of begin to open up to their heart or tune into their heart, what would you suggest that they could begin with?
It starts with a choice. To make a choice.
Yes.
Because when we make a choice, that's the most powerful thing we have, is choice, I believe.
Yeah.
And I was reminded by that the other day, when we're choosing something, we're committed to something. When we're not choosing something, we're not committed. And choice can be a moment by moment, day to day. I'm choosing. So for me, I said when I stepped out of my marriage 2.5 years ago, I'm choosing to live from my heart. I'm choosing to build a relationship with my heart where my heart is going to have me living life courageously, loving courageously. And so that choice has been has been what has allowed this relationship to blossom and flourish and unfold. So I'd say choice. You know, if you're not choosing something for you, then you're having life being essentially done to you.
Mm-hmm.
So the question would be, what am I choosing? What are you choosing for you? And if somebody is offering you this seed, this invitation that could potentially lead you out of the suffering, which is the suffering of the mind, and return you to your heart, it's not some soft, gooey thing. It is inside our hearts is such innate wisdom and power, so profound. And it is always leading us in the direction of our higher selves, which is always going to be a support for any, you know, it's not like others are going to be affected by it and are going to lose out. In fact, it is great for all.
Yeah.
So I'd say choice, choosing it.
Choosing what specifically?
Okay. Choosing you, choosing to return home to you. What does that? And so choosing to return home to you can be, I'm not connected to me. So what could be one small thing that I could choose to return me home to me? Can that be, I don't even know what it feels like to be connected to my heart.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put my hand on my heart, and I'm going to, you know, one of the things that I did was, when I chose to return home to my heart, was to speak to, I say her, and let her know that I'm really sorry that I have ignored her, that I have abandoned her messages and her wisdom, and that I'm choosing to listen. So that could be something that they could do. And then that just starts to guide you in a way that you actually start to really, you know, it's thousands of moments of choosing.
Yes.
To arrive at the place. And I haven't arrived anywhere. It's a constant, but it's taken thousands and thousands and thousands of times for me to come back and go, I'm choosing, I'm here with you, and I'm here to listen. And I'm sorry I disconnected from you and I abandoned you, but now I'm here. As a relationship.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Beautiful. And then what would be kind of the next step with the choice? So if somebody is tuning into their heart, and as you said, tuning in, and I'm sorry that I haven't been there, I haven't been attuned, I haven't been listening, I haven't been feeling. So what would be the next step for them?
It could be, so I'm big into journaling, or have been along the way. And so it could be journaling on all the ways, all the things that have had you out of your heart, and all the reasons why you're too afraid. Like, what is it, the fear? What are the fears? What are the doubts? What is there that is holding you, preventing you from returning home? So what are the stories you're playing? What is blocking, burying? What are the barriers between you and your heart? Your ego, fear, and love.
Yeah. And journaling is so powerful. And actually writing down those thoughts, feelings, can be so cathartic, can really help you to begin to change.
And I was given a really great tool called dual hand journaling last year by an NLP practitioner that I saw in England. Amazing. And so you use your dominant hand to ask a question, and then you use your non-dominant hand to answer, and that's your unconscious. Powerful. So you get insights into what's really at play, not from your rational mind, but from what's actually causing this, whatever it is that you're experiencing, whatever you want clarity on, or whatever the challenge is, and it gets to the roots of it. And it's really great, and it's incredibly healing. And I mean, I say it's unconscious, but I would also say I often found by doing that, I felt like it was the little girl in me or the teenager in me that was having her say. And so then when I could see her speaking in that way, then I could meet her with love. I could be with her. And that's transformational.
Yeah. This is so powerful.
You know, I think just talking about that, the inner child, inner baby, inner toddler, inner teenager, the work in all of that, which has been massive for me, massive, is, and it's a big part of the work that I do with women, is really, really returning home to all of those times that we felt unseen, unheard, unloved, abandoned, rejected, not seen, not noticed, whatever it is that we've got running. And every time we do that and bring those parts of ourselves and bring them into our hearts, for me, that's wholeness.
Yes. Yeah, I love that. So, Lisa, so where are you now? So you're working with your clients, and you are helping clients to tune in and understand, and giving them the tools to be able to do this. And how do people contact you?
Will you put a link? The best way to contact
I'll put a
me
link,
is,
yeah.
So I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and I do quite a few lives and videos. You know, at least a few times a week, I'm sharing pieces of what's supporting me, pieces of what I use with clients. So there's heaps of content on Facebook and Instagram. And then I have a podcast, The Good News Guy, where I'm interviewing other experts in all of these fields: mental health, you know, physical, emotional, spiritual, all of that. So that's another resource where they can have a listen. And then if they want to contact me direct, they can email me at lisa@lisawinneke.com, and I will respond.
Yeah, excellent. So all the information will be below anyway.
Yeah.
Lisa, wow. This has been so interesting. And I'm sure our listeners will be able to gain so much from learning and listening to all that you've had to say, hearing from your experience and what you've been through, and where you are now. Beautiful.
And I would just love to say that, you know, that really, no matter where anyone is, one step, one tiny step in a slightly different direction, to do one different thing for you, you have no idea the power of taking that one step. It is incredible, because that one step will lead you to take another step in a direction that isn't the same as what you're taking. So it's like what's one micro step that you can take towards healing, towards wholeness, out of suffering.
Yeah. It's having that choice.
Making the choice, yeah.
Yeah. And then making that slight change. Fabulous. Thank you, Lisa, so much for joining us. This has been incredible. Incredible.
Thanks, Kate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Ooh, we could carry on talking for hours. So thank you, Lisa. It's been excellent. So that's all for today's episode of Bulimia Sucks. And thank you to everybody for listening. And of course, to Lisa for joining us. And join us again on the next episode. And make sure that you subscribe to the podcast on Apple iTunes so you never miss an episode. And also let us know what you think about the podcast, and show some love for your favorite podcast by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or iTunes or wherever you listen. And make sure that you join our Facebook group, Bulimia Sucks, if you haven't already, where it's great to connect with like-minded people and chat about our different experiences. So thanks for listening, and I'll chat with you in the next podcast.